Brett Kavanaugh firing back against sexual misconduct allegations in an exclusive interview with Fox News. You'll hear from him in just a moment. But first, we want to get you caught up. The Supreme Court nominee blasting what he's calling a last-minute character assassination, while adding he won't be smeared and intimidated into withdrawing. This comes as a second accuser has come forward, accusing Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct during a party when they were students at Yale. The woman, identified as Debbie Ramirez, is admitting to The New Yorker that she's not certain it was Kavanaugh at first and acknowledges there are gaps in her memories of the evening because she was drinking. Ronan Farrow, who co-wrote the piece about the second accuser, explains more about her uncorroborated claim.
At first, she wasn't sure this was Kavanaugh when you first came to her last week, and then you write, after 6 days of carefully assessing her memories and consulting with her attorney, she did become confident that it was him. You know, a lot of people...
And George, I would say that that's extremely typical of these stories. When you're dealing with trauma, alcohol, many years in between, I think that the more cautious witnesses that I've dealt with in cases like this very frequently say, I want to take time to decide, I want to talk to other people involved, I want to search myself and make sure that I can affirmatively stand by these claims.
Farrow also causing controversy when explaining why Ms. Ramirez decided to speak out now.
She came forward because Senate Democrats began looking at this claim. She did not flag this for those Democrats. This came to the attention of people on the Hill independently, and it's really cornered her into an awkward position. That's why she took time to think about this carefully. You know, she said point blank, I don't want to ruin anyone's life, but she feels this is a serious claim. You know, she considers her own memories credible, and she felt it was important that she tell her story before others did without her consent.
Here's what Brett Kavanaugh told Martha about these accusations in her exclusive interview airing tonight.
The truth is, I've never sexually assaulted anyone in high school or otherwise. I am not questioning and have not questioned that perhaps Dr. Ford at some point in her life was sexually assaulted by someone in some place. But what I know is I've never sexually assaulted anyone.
Okay, Judge, what do you think about the process with which this woman's story came out? So she's reached by Senate Democrat staffers, and then I believe maybe she's coached or massaged by lawyers and Democrat activists into remembering what she believes was a sexual misconduct situation all about 35 years ago. Is that... does that strike you as strange at all?
You know what strikes me as strange? That you have Ronan Farrow, who had a pretty good reputation, who now comes out and says, well, you know, based on my experience, it's not unusual to see what's happened. Ronan, you're wrong. Based on my experience, 35 years in law enforcement, creating a sex crimes unit, trying rape cases, listening to complaints, you don't have someone say, I need 6 days to figure out who it was, and then need to consult with their attorney. They usually at that point, if they believe that there was some kind of sexual assault or misconduct, they know who did it, and the 6 days are to decide whether or not they want to go out and tell the story. She says she came out with this because she wanted to tell her story before someone else does. Here's the bottom line. If you can't even find a corroborating witness to confirm what you're alleging occurred with Judge Kavanaugh, well, then who else are you worried about telling your story? Because there is no story. But I can start with due process if that's what you want. It's nowhere near these delayed Democrat complaints.
So, Juan, if you have no witnesses to the alleged misconduct, and then you were calling around some of your friends back at Yale on the phone and saying, you know what, it may have been Kavanaugh, it may not have been Kavanaugh, do you think it was Kavanaugh? I can't quite remember. And then another female associate of hers, her best friend, said, she never told me anything about this. Does this tell you that maybe she might not have it exactly right about specifically Kavanaugh?
Yeah, it does. I think that she's saying of her own volition that she wants to be sure, that she thinks it's such a serious allegation, that she took time and that she is putting all of her doubts out in public. She's not trying to say, oh, I'm certain when she's not certain. She's saying, I'm not clearly certain. I was drinking. Okay. So I think that's pretty straightforward. Now, Ronan Farrow says that he considers what he did a high level of evidence, here I'm quoting, and says that direct accounts from people who she told right afterwards that this had happened with Kavanaugh. That's what Ronan Farrow says. So he says he applied that standard in other stories that he's done with similar instances of sexual harassment or sexual misconduct. He says this is proven to be ironclad and a good way to do it. So he considers it a high standard of journalism.
I didn't know that that's the way he went about it. I thought it was he found someone that had heard something like that had happened, not that this woman had told a friend about it afterwards.
Well, also, the New York piece says that they have not confirmed with any other eyewitnesses that Kavanaugh was president of the party. The New York Times, president of the party, New York Times reached out to several dozen individuals trying to corroborate the story. Could not, even reported that Ramirez herself was calling people asking if they could recall this incident from happening. Juan, I think it's pretty clear to everyone what is going on now. Look, the Me Too movement has created this environment where we are coerced to simply believe a woman because of her gender. Democrats are taking advantage, manipulating that environment, and now weaponizing these uncorroborated accusations as a political tool to clobber Judge Kavanaugh with, and it's disingenuous and it's dangerous. And quite frankly, the New Yorker should be ashamed that they ever ran the story to begin with.
So, Greg, if you look back in the weekend, one of the alleged witnesses with Dr. Ford, female, good friend, came out and said, I'd never heard of this, not sure about the party, don't know anything about this. And then you have a second alleged victim come out. What is the pattern telling you right now?
Well, I thought that, I mean, Dianne Feinstein could run an airline with that kind of timing. Because it was perfectly timed. You had a longtime friend and fourth person mentioned in the story, has no recollection. Boom. That was, I guess, Saturday, Sunday, you had the new accusation. What worries me in the big picture is we're shifting the meaning of the word corroboration. Before, an accusation would require corroboration, which meant, you know, witnesses and evidence, which the Ford case seemed to lack. And now this other one actually seems weaker than Ford. So now you corroborate one allegation with what? Another allegation. So what happens is the media is less inclined to actually dive deep into the story. Instead, just pile these things. So, well, it must have happened because now it's quantity, not quality.
Well, plus there's an additional point. I have never seen anything like this in my career in over 3 decades. I've never seen so many repressed memory cases in my life, especially against one guy.
Yeah.
So the question is, if there's something awry going on, was there hypnosis? Are they using confabulation? And I don't want to get into the weeds here, but you know what? This is the kind of thing where they have a right to true cross-examination. But the Democrats don't want true cross-examination because they want Kavanaugh to go first. How does the defendant or the accused go first when he doesn't know what the accusation is? How is a defendant able to rebut and present a defense when the complaining witness doesn't give a bill of particulars as to what happened? I mean, this is so backwards. It is so obviously an attempt. Yeah, let's
go with what you're saying.
Good.
Let's have the FBI.
I think she's okay with that.
Let's have the FBI come in and say, here is a fact basis that we can all agree on, and that's what they're calling for.
Okay, so let me ask you this one.
No, let me just say, you have a situation here where you just described, Judge, the one set of facts coming from one person, another set of facts coming from another. And then she says the party occurred. He says, I wasn't at that party.
No.
She says, I don't even know when the party was. How can he deny that he's at a party that she hasn't identified?
Well, first of all, let me explain something. When she says something, he has the right to know specifically what it is.
Okay.
But in the end, there is no way you can even consider bringing in the FBI. And my question to you is a very simple one.
Right.
Everybody's talking about, let's bring in the FBI. Well, why the hell haven't you asked the FBI to get involved? Why did Dianne Feinstein sit on this for 6 weeks? Why did she sit on it for 36 years? She was not. They knew who she was.
No. She was anonymous. And here's the thing. In this response to something you were asking about, Jesse, I think in this case, when somebody is being nominated for the Supreme Court and suddenly you have all the world's eyeballs fixed on this guy, now they're going to fly spec him. I don't care who you are. That's a fact. And so suddenly a lot of people who knew him, a lot of people had questions. Remember, in this second case, that woman wasn't coming forward, the woman at Yale.
How did they find her?
The Democrats heard stories about
the Democrats
Well, then where is the corroborating witness who can confirm the story that they say they heard from someone?
I'm with you, Judge.
Someone?
Let's send the FBI in. That's what they do. They do
FBI doesn't do these cases, and that's why they haven't asked the FBI.
I'll tell you what's really interesting going on today.
What's interesting is that this is all confusion and all smoke
but
and
what's
mirrors.
interesting is that Martha McCallum tonight is going to have Kavanaugh and his wife on her show. To me, this is like, wow. You mean a guy who's up for a Supreme Court nomination decides it's important to take a break and do TV?
I think he's trying to defend himself, and we do have some.
Wait a minute, wait.
Hold on.
You can't smear a guy for trying to defend himself. There is no due process.
No, what I'm saying is,
at all for this guy.
No, what I'm saying is, boy, did you see the Fox poll? The Fox poll indicates now more people believe Ford than believe Kavanaugh.
Gee, what a surprise after what's been done to him. Look, if allegations are enough without witness or without evidence, you should worry about your husbands, again, your brothers, your sons, and your fathers.
And yourself.
Yes, and there needs to be a new women's movement. Call them the mama bears, because they're coming for your sons.
Can you be part of it if you're not a mom?
Yeah. Wait, by the way, you know what's going to happen is...
Don't exclude me, Greg.
No, but you know what's funny? You know what's going to happen? Because you can't nominate men anymore, you know who's going to be the Supreme Court justice?
Oh,
Judge Pirro.
Yeah,
You're next.
No,
Justice.
let me tell you, all
right,
I'd like
Judge,
to do is question the two of them. That's all I want to do.
All right. More proof that the facts on Kavanaugh don't matter to Democrats. The latest left-wing smear ahead. Plus, Martha McCallum joins us to preview her exclusive interview with Brett Kavanaugh and his wife.